We
are
We are
cultivate.
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 Cultivate. We are Cultivate.
Hello and welcome to Ye Olde Crime, where we discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear. I'm your host, Lindsay Valenti, and with me is my sister and co-host, Maddie Stengel.
Hello.
Hi. It is morning.
It is morning.
Today, we are recording our 200th episode.
200.
Who would have thought?
Not me. I thought this was just going to be something fun that we did during COVID, and
Yeah,
we kept
here
it
we
up.
are. Hey, look at us.
Hey, look at us. Look at us. Who'd have thought?
Not me. I love you, Paul Rudd. So, my corrections cubby for this episode is that we will have some well wishes like sprinkled in throughout this episode as far as audio clips are concerned from our friends Jim at Film Rage, Nick at Tennish, Marge at Bite Me, Dustin from Sandman Stories Presents, John, Sean, and Josh from Reddit on Wiki, and Becky from Too Stupid to Live.
Nice. Thank you, everybody. That's so nice.
Yeah, thank you. They're all very sweet messages. And today we're doing something a little bit different. It's kind of like our 150th episode where Kona, shut up. Stop shaking your head and making bell-like sounds on the audio. She just wants to be included. Where we each have a few mini stories that we're going to be sharing with each other. And I didn't read yours, but I included the links so
Awesome.
I'm gonna read all of our links at the top, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
So information was pulled from the following sources: a 2019 Atlas Obscura article by Noor al-Samurai. I hope I said that right. Chances are I didn't. 6 Atlas Obscura links. Find a Grave. It's Goa, Old Town Cemetery. 2 Wikipedia links in the Worcestershire and Dudley Historic Churches Trust. And links to all of these articles will be included in the show notes.
Hello, Lindsay and Madison. Congratulations on 200 episodes of Ye Olde Crimes podcast. That represents so much time, energy, and love, and it's really difficult to get to 200 episodes. So you're doing the right things. Congratulations from Marge of Bite Me, the show about edibles.
And, spoiler alert, we are also going to be answering listener questions throughout. So,
Nice.
to kick us off, we have a couple questions from our friend Alex over at Weird Distractions.
Hi, Alex.
And she would like to know, have either of you thought about writing a book ever in your life? And if so, what would you want to write about?
I have not thought about it. I don't find my life particularly interesting or like fascinating enough for someone to read.
Yeah.
However, it could potentially be kind of fun and or maybe helpful if I were to do like a guide to surviving diabetes almost. Like kind of a way I became my own patient advocate almost.
Mm-hmm.
And like little tips and tricks on how to talk to your insurance company and bully them into getting the care you pay for, and how to approach your doctor when they're clearly incredibly uncomfortable about medications and new medications and things to try, and how to find studies on drugs and durable medical equipment you want to support so that you can have a better life, 10 years down the road. That would be the only thing I think I would make.
Remember how once upon a time you thought about doing a podcast about this?
Yep. I still have the email for it.
What if you turned the podcast into a book? You could still like interview people and like sprinkle
Mhm.
that in between stuff.
Yeah. The only issue I think I have with medical, like a medical guide, is the landscape changes so often
Mm-hmm.
that my tips on like talking to your insurance provider might not be accurate 10 years down the road, you know?
You could always put an asterisk on stuff and be like,
Yeah.
I'm writing this in the
This
year
was,
whatever, so
yeah.
things may have changed depending on when you are reading this book.
Yeah. I still every now and then think about that podcast and like starting it, but a lot of it would just be just no rhyme or reason, and it would just be nonsensical complaining, I think, for the most part, on like why things are hard and why I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe. How about you?
I've always wanted to write a book.
Hmm.
My youngest asked me recently what I wanted to be when I grew up, when I was her age, and I said I wanted to be an author. And it has yet to happen, and I'm 40. But then again, I've had nothing but time to write a book, and I just haven't done it.
No, you'll want to write a book when you're like at peak busyness, because that's
Yeah,
how
that's
life
how it
works.
goes.
Hmm.
I've had a couple different ideas of what I wanted to write the book about. I've had a few people ask if we're going to be writing a book about the podcast. I don't know how that would work.
Really?
Yeah.
It'd be a very short story of how we
Yeah.
came to be.
Well, it could be like a compilation of some of our most popular episodes, kind of like how Aaron Mahnke wrote his books, where he essentially took his audio transcripts from a bunch of his episodes and turned it into book form.
Yeah.
So that is something that we could potentially do. Obviously, it wouldn't have the color commentary that you bring to the show. That is a possibility.
Oh no, it doesn't include me. I think we'd all be better for it. It's not educational. I don't, my value add does not translate in book form.
I just put like parentheses of like your feedback.
Insert wow. What? No
Insert,
way.
oh no.
You long pig.
Another thing I thought about doing recently is Maddie and I have quite a colorful cast of historical characters that we are tangentially related to. They're on our
Mhm.
dad or our mom's side. And it
It's
could be
true.
interesting to do short bios on some of those people and then include obscure story from at some point throughout their life to tie
That
it
could be
back to the
fun.
podcast. So I have a couple ideas that I'm kind of percolating on, but
I just thought of a title. I'd be like, thanks for the beaties. Incest and intrigue. And the Stengel family dynasty.
oh god.
Are you the reason I have these diseases? Yes, because you married your first cousin in the 15th century.
TBD, I guess, if we're going
Yeah.
to write
Also,
books.
TM. Don't take these, please. I'll cry.
Yeah. Don't take our ideas.
Yeah. And it's really sad when I cry. You'll feel bad about it.
I am an ugly ass crier, so you will be so uncomfortable and you will
That you'll
want
have to fix
to,
it.
and also scrub your memory of the look of my red face. Okay, I'm going to kick off the first of our stories by discussing the life and death of, we're going to France, so this is going to be great, Philibert Asparuh.
All right. What a great name.
Philibert, I know, it's
It's so cute.
Philibert Asparuh was born on April 13th, 1732, in Département du Puy-de-Dôme. I think I did that pretty well. Not much is known about him unless you factor in his connection with the Paris catacombs. And if you don't know what those are, how? But they are a massive maze of tunnels that run under the whole of the city of Paris in hundreds of directions for just as many miles, full of subterranean tombs. Just think bones. All the
Yep.
bones.
Not as neatly buried as you would have hoped.
Yeah. While a majority of it is off limits to the public, there are areas that you can visit, but only with a guide.
Yep. Because you will die down there. You will get lost.
Yep. Philibert is a perfect example of why.
Ah.
As it goes, he was working as a doorkeeper at the Val de Grace military hospital during the French Revolution. Although in some places he's also listed as working as a quarryman. That is, until he mysteriously went missing in 1793 without a trace.
Cute.
Until 1804, when his body was discovered 11 years later in the catacombs.
How did they know it was him?
We will get to that.
Ugh.
He was 61 at the time of his death.
Oh, wow. That's old during that time, too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was an old man, so they're probably like, oh, he just fell dead. It's okay. He just, took a breath and died.
Yeah. It's theorized that Philibert went down the stairs into the catacombs one day and lost the light, making it so he couldn't find his way out. He likely died
Terrifying.
slowly in November of 1793, alone in complete and utter darkness.
That would have been a really terrifying death.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounded by bones, too.
Mm-hmm. It's impossible to know why he entered the catacombs that night via a staircase in the hospital courtyard, although it's been suspected that he may have been trying to break into the basement of a brewery nearby.
Mm.
And unfortunately for Philibert, he died only a few feet away from the staircase to the outside.
Oh, that's devastating.
He was discovered in a tunnel in Gennevilliers, outside of Paris, although there wasn't much of him left.
Mhm.
He was only able to be properly identified due to the buttons on his jacket and the hospital key ring that he still had hanging from his belt.
Interesting. Okay.
Philibert was buried where he was found, in a small personal tomb that is marked by a stone grave marker. The English translation reads as follows, quote, "In the memory of Philibert Asparis, lost in this excavation on 3 November 1793, found 11 years later and buried at the same place on 30 April 1804, end quote. The site of his grave marker and the room in which it is located is a popular place for cataphiles, even though his
Mhm.
tomb is located in a restricted section of the catacombs underneath the Rue Henri Barbusse, next to the Boulevard Saint-Michel. So
Yeah.
technically, don't go looking for it because it is
Yeah.
no mas. I love how I went Spanish there instead of French. I will note that there are some inconsistencies between the tomb and the death certificate that was found for Philibert Ozpere, which was dated May 2nd, 1804. And the English translation reads in part as follows. I'm only going to read a section of it because it's kind of long, kind of boring, but there were a couple interesting things in it. Quote, death certificate of Philibert Ozpere, quarry worker, aged 62 years, born in Salmarange, département du Puy-du-Dôme, residing in Paris, Saint-Jacques 129 of said division, married, Elizabeth Millard, his widow, found dead in the quarries under the Rue d'Enfer on 12 Floréal of the present month at noon, based on the minutes written on said day by Charles Dubonnel, police officer of the Luxembourg division, said Asper had been missing from his house for 10 or 12 years as it is found throughout the minutes when written the said day, 12 Florial of the present month and year, end quote. I just thought
Nice.
it was interesting that he had a wife.
Yeah. Not like nobody really looked for him. Or
Yeah.
maybe they did. I don't know.
This is Nick Amell from Tennis Podcast, here to congratulate Lindsay and Madison on 200 episodes of Ye Old Crime. I remember years ago when I was a ye young podcaster, Ye Old Crime began around the same time as my show, and so it's been fun to see us both grow over the same period of time in parallel. And the growth for Ye Old Crime is well deserved. No need to crack this cramp word because Lindsay and Madison have cracked the code for the perfect podcast that blends true crime and history. I love it. Congrats again on 200 episodes, and here's to 200 more. No, 2 million more. No matter how many more there are, I'll be listening.
All right. Before we transition to your first story, we have another listener question.
Okay.
And this is from Stellar Future Radio on Twitter. And they want to know, if you got to name a moon of Saturn, what would you name it?
Greg. Just felt right. I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
How about you? I love that you were about to take a big drink. Like I was gonna have to think about it. Like make a thoughtful answer.
Yeah, and I like immediately set it back down. I wasn't even going to try and drink. I was like, nope. Nope.
Greg.
The first thing that came to mind is rock. Like
Moon rock.
moon rock, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Saturn's moon. Rock. Part of it is because I'm tired and I haven't had a lot of coffee, but I'm going to stick with it. Rock. That's
Yeah,
my answer.
rock. Greg's rock. You
Rock.
rock, Greg.
All right. Enlighten us with your first tale.
All right. So all mine are pretty short, just to warn you.
Mm-hmm.
But mine is something unique that is found in the Dowles graveyard. Located in Bewdley, England, you can find this historical Easter egg by navigating a corpse road, something I never heard of prior to researching this graveyard. In a fun little mini pivot, Atlas Obscura provided some information on what a corpse road is. So, do you know what a corpse road is? Did you hear about this before?
I've never heard this term before.
Isn't that crazy? Because, like, we've done 200 episodes now, all
And I've
within
never
this
heard it.
area where corpse roads are, like, a thing, and we've never heard of it. So, corpse roads are also known as coffin routes, beerways, lichways, burial roads, or churchways. They were roads that were formed from loved ones transporting dead bodies from their homes to their final resting places, often to local churches nearby. So they wouldn't want to use their private drive because once these corpse roads were kind of made, they were considered public. So
Okay.
something too, which I didn't realize, but not all churches could have graveyards because they needed to have the ground consecrated. So some of these corpse roads could end up being super, super long because they would end up having to go to what was referred to as a mother church. So I didn't know this, but back in the day, in medieval times, there would be a mother church where they would do the bigger ceremonies. So they would do weddings, funerals, that kind of thing, baptisms. But you were able to do like worship and stuff at your local church, but you had to have consecrated ground in order to have a graveyard at the other churches. So it wasn't until the 18th century that regular churches finally won the right to bury their own parishioners. So you would have to travel all the way to a mother church to bury your loved ones if they died at home. So these corpse roads could be like super long. Corpse roads were often seen as the final journey or the person's last farewell, and it was considered an honor to be walking with them to their final resting place. So creating this road with them was kind of a big deal, and it was Or you normally would think like getting rid of a body from a home would be something that nobody would want to do and it would be irritating. This was considered something very sacred.
Like an honor to be escorting somebody to their final resting place.
Yeah. If for whatever reason, like say you were just in a spot where there was no way you would be able to make a corpse road and you would have to use part of a private road or a private road for the full destination, you could potentially use the private road if you paid a toll to the landowner, just acknowledging that that was their road, that was their land, and you were being respectful. And so what they would often do is they would put really nice pins or pennies as offerings. And so like all the people that were like a part of the procession would pay part of the toll to be able to get their loved one past this road. So anyway, back to the Dowell's graveyard. According to the Worcestershire and Dudley Historical Churches Trust, St. Andrew's Church was built in 1780 and it was altered in 1882. It was in Shropshire until 1895, and then it was subsequently demolished in 1956. And the only remnants of the church is the gravesite in the woods and a few worn down parish rooms. So why is the Dowell's graveyard so interesting? Well, for one, it has one of the last remaining examples of a mort safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you remember what mort safes
Yep.
are?
Yep.
Yep. So for everybody, if you go to our like body snatching,
Yep.
any of our body snatching episodes, you would find out what a mort safe is.
Or any of the ones that involved vampires, because they also
Yep.
use those thinking they could trap vampires.
Yep. So mort safe, essentially, it was just a cage that was built over a grave, often to protect the dead from the living, as opposed to protecting the living from the dead. This one in particular, people were really weirded out by because it was so small, but it was to protect a child from resurrectionists or grave robbers who would dig up fresh bodies to sell them as cadavers to surgeons and medical schools.
Mm-hmm.
This graveyard has a pretty well preserved mort safe from a child. This gravesite also has ties to Susan Wowen, better known as the Bodley Witch, who worshipped the devil and was apparently so devout and evil that she ended up growing her own horns right there on her head.
Oh, man.
I know. So she had 2 horns, and according to the legend, she would shave her horns every few years in ceremony, and apparently some of these horn shavings were sent to the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford.
Okay.
No one knows how true that is because they're not like showcasing horn shavings from a witch but
Yeah.
that is the local legend, is that you can find her horn shavings in this museum storage.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the story.
Nice.
Hello, ye old crime podcast. This is Becky, host of Too Stupid to Live, the podcast that reviews romance novels $5 and under. Congratulations on 200 episodes. It is so impressive that if podcasts existed in Victorian times, those hip Victorian slang-using podcast listeners would certainly say that it's, quote unquote, some pumpkins. Look at that. Looks like you have to crack the cramp word now. Congratulations.
Another question from Alex from Weird Distractions is, what is the best self-care tip you would recommend to a podcaster who covers true crime?
Invest in brain candy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, brain candy is a term I nabbed from an old roommate in college. And she referred to brain candy as something like either an activity or something you can view or like ingest, essentially, that requires very little effort
Mm-hmm.
and only brings joy. and contentment. So like to me, brain candy is like my brain candy is like reality TV shows. Like something that really isn't a value add to my
Mhm.
life. It's just something distracting enough to reset my brain from whatever stressors I was just panicking about. I can watch this
Mhm.
and not have to think, not have to process anything.
Mhm.
You just take in the content.
Yep.
Same thing with like games or like fiction books, like
Yep.
fantasy books, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like reading a romance novel instead of, a historical biography about something. It's not necessarily something you want to put a lot of effort into. It's just
Mhm.
something you need to do to calm your brain down enough to either reset yourself from whatever super stressful thing you were just doing
Mhm.
or to kind of come down and be able to relax for the rest of the day, that kind of
Yep.
thing. Yeah. Invest in good brain candy. Like I have diamond paintings that I like to do. Like it's kind of like the paint by number with gemstones.
Mhm.
That like consistent repetitive movement I find very soothing. I read and I'll play Stardew Valley, or we did models briefly for a little bit. I'll probably start that back up at some point. But knitting too, or cooking, baking. Baking is really honestly my brain candy. It's something that I can
Mhm.
do on autopilot and I just really like doing. It really kind of gets me back into myself in a positive way. So, how
Mhm.
about you? What's yours? What's your coping?
Mine's very similar to yours. So some of my brain candy type of activities that I do is I will read manga or webtoons that have nothing to do with true crime. I've taken up coloring again a little bit,
Yeah.
like coloring books.
I mean, that's essentially what diamond painting is.
Yeah. I can only do it for short periods of time because then my hand starts to cramp up and I'm like, I'm done
Yep.
now.
Yep. Same. Mm-hmm.
This was fun.
Ow.
Yeah. I will read romance novels. I was
Hmm.
joking the other day, like looking through my Kindle, that it is essentially a mix of classic literature, historical true crime, or romance novels. So those are like the three genres that I have on
Nice.
my Kindle. And another thing that I do probably more often than not is watch kind of like dumb comedy. So
Yes.
think shows like I used to watch for a while,
Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Tacoma FD, like that, because
Yep.
that was a fire department show by a couple of the guys from Broken Lizard,
Hmm.
who were the people behind Super Troopers, if people don't know what
Yep.
Broken Lizard is. Or like Shoresy or
Hmm.
Letterkenny, just shows that you don't have to think about, where you just kind of sit there and you just laugh. Like
Hmm.
it's a nonsensical, like you just sit there and absorb. So
Yep.
stuff like that. Or listening to like comedy specials, like
Hmm.
like a comedian or something. Those are sort of my palate cleanser type things that I do as a self-care reset if I am getting a little too deep into whatever I'm writing
Right.
about.
Because it can be really hard. I mean, there have been times where you have a story that you want to share, but it's a really difficult story. So it takes you like 2 or 3 weeks just to get through the notes
Yeah.
because of the amount of breaks you have to take
Yeah.
just to get through the content.
And we don't cover a whole lot of super dark things on the show, but there
Yeah.
have been some like pretty dark ones that,
Hmm. Well, like anything that involves children
yeah,
is hard.
yeah, those would be my recommendations is
Yeah. Get yourself some brain candy.
mhm,
And don't feel bad about consuming brain candy because you know
mhm,
what? Life is really hard right now. Like in general, you don't have to be a podcaster to ingest and enjoy brain candy.
mhm. And don't be
I
ashamed of
encourage it.
whatever it is. It could be
Mm-mm.
Candy Crush, it could be
Oh my God, yeah. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts recently, and they told me about, or they were talking about some sort of mobile game that they've invested like so much money into just because they love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
They've put like more than $1,000 into it.
Oh, damn.
But if you think about it, if you think about like World of Warcraft and like those other
Yep.
games and
Mm-hmm.
like League of Legends and Fortnite and stuff, like how much money people really just kind of dump into it without thinking about it because it's $5 this paycheck and $2 this paycheck and $3 here. I've purchased stuff from a mobile game before. I've had to not download, like uninstall them so that I
Yeah.
don't.
I definitely am guilty of putting money into Pokemon Go
Yes.
for some
Yeah.
things because,
I feel like they do it to you on purpose. They make it so it's hard to find certain resources. So
yeah,
you either have to wait or you have to pay.
I
And
don't
if
have any
you're
gyms close to me, so I never
yeah,
make money, so I have to pay, and it's like, you sons of bitches.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you do you. Don't ever apologize for doing whatever you need to do to take care of
Make
your mental
yourself
health, unless it's harmful. But as long as you're not hurting yourself or others,
exactly, as long as you are not harming yourself and not harming others and doing something that you enjoy that is safe, enjoy it.
yep, you do you.
Hmm. That's your turn.
My second story is that of Dona Paula.
Mm.
So, south of Panaji, India, which is the capital of Goa, which is one of India's states,
Hmm.
there's a village named Dona Paula. It's named in honor of, and this is another long name, Dona Paula Amarel Antonio de Sotomayor, who was the daughter of a Portuguese viceroy of Yathapatnam, which is part of Sri Lanka.
Hmm.
Her family landed in Goa in 1644, and 12 years later, in 1656, she married a Spanish noble named Dom Antonio de Sotomayor, who owned a sizable plot of land near the village, near the present day village. For context, Dona is a Portuguese title given to a woman that is married, so like a
Okay,
Mrs., such as Dom is Mr.
got it.
Tons of rumors swirled around Dona Paula. Some people say she was an adulterer and a vile temptress. Others
Mm.
say she was a lonely widow dealing with unimaginable grief. Regardless, most versions of the story end with her either throwing herself off a cliff into the waves below
Oh, damn.
or being thrown off.
Hmm.
Just cliff death.
Okay.
One telling of the tale states that she falls in love with a Goan fisherman, but since their love was forbidden, as she was from an affluent Portuguese family, the
Mhm.
pair of them took their own lives by drowning in the water after jumping off the cliff. That's like a romantic Romeo and Juliet telling of the story.
Okay.
For example, today there is a statue at Dona Paula Viewpoint that depicts a man and a woman as like immortal lovers, titled Image of India. It was sculpted in 1969 by Dutch sculptress Baroness Yeers van Liestner. It bears the inscription, quote, "Lead us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality," end quote. Another version of her story has her married to a local fisherman named Paula, who gets lost at sea, with her waiting on the
Mm.
cliffs each day, hoping and waiting for his return.
Sad.
And she is so devoted to him that she herself turns into a rock waiting for him.
Mm.
Obviously, that's not real.
Yeah.
Another version states that she was the lady in waiting for the governor's wife, and she had an affair with him.
Mm.
As punishment, she was beaten, stripped naked, and thrown off the cliffs wearing nothing but a pearl necklace.
They would have taken it.
A paranormal twist. It's said that even 3 centuries after her death, some of the Goan villagers have seen her walk out of the surf wearing nothing but the pearl necklace.
Mm.
Obviously, as you can see, the common thread amongst all these versions is that her end is dictated in some way or form by a man.
Right.
In reality, little is known about the real Dona Paula, except that she was extremely charitable, living closely with the locals, and she did what she could to better the village. And following her death on December 16th, 1682, the village of Olde, as it had previously been called, renamed itself as Dona Paula to honor her memory and legacy. The grave of Dona Paula is located at the Raj Pavan Chapel, which is near the official residence of the governor of Goa. Her black granite tombstone had previously been incorporated into the chapel's floor, but has since been moved to a wall by its original location. So they kind of just like shifted it up the wall instead of on the floor. In its place, a marker is located to show where it had originally been incorporated into the floor. And her tombstone is translated as, quote, "Here rests Dona Paula G. Menezes, wife of Dom Antonio de Soto Mayor, expired on 21st December 1682, requests one Our Father and one Hail Mary for the repose of her soul." End quote. And today the chapel is part of the governor's residence, so you will have to take a guided tour if you wish to see her tombstone.
It's fair.
From the pictures that I saw of it, it is very beautiful.
Nice.
Hello, listeners. It's Jim from the Film Rage podcast. Ye Old Crime with 2 E's. Wait, it's not 2 E's, it's 3 E's. Wait, how many E's is in this? Anyway, there's a lot of E's. I remember when you were only a baby podcast, barely out of diapers. I discovered you, at first, due to your cannibal episode, and have gorged on your episodes with ferocity ever since. Sweet, sweet, delicious podcast. Please know that I did not come by your podcast due to my love of true crime podcasts. No, but for my love of history, which drew me to 2 kooky sisters who seem to have a passion for the weird and wacky part of history that I too have always loved. Listening to Maddie and Lindsay spin tales of yesteryear every week is always one of my greatest joys to look forward to. Your humor, chemistry, and friendship comes through and helps your listeners feel connected, so connected that you almost feel like we're part of your family. Now that you're 200 episodes old, with an E, it seems that as grizzled veterans of podcasting, perhaps you will continue podcasting well into enjoying your need for diapers again. Keep bringing all your listeners the joy of Ye Old Crimes. I can't wait to hear what adventures you take us on for the next 200. Congrats on 200 episodes. I hope this podcast never ends.
Next question from Alex from Weird Distractions. If you could go back 200 episodes prior, what advice, if any, would you give yourselves before hitting the publish button for episode 1?
Record more ahead of time. That's the only thing I could think of, is to not publish as many from the beginning as we did. Because what did you do, like 2 as a cushion before? Because you did do a buffer initially, but I think maybe having a better buffer where you had at least a freebie episode a quarter.
Yeah.
You know, like 4 episodes ahead.
Yeah.
Just because life happens. And we've had a couple instances where like you've had to find a different person, or when you were gone, you had to find an episode that we could share.
Well, it's like that one year in December where we took the whole month off and we just shared guest episodes from other people's podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, mental health breaks are important, but still wanted to keep the good times rolling. So my advice to myself would be, you don't need to be as edit heavy as you think. Like, I was very, in the beginning, trying to take a lot of the silence out or like remove any little sound. And I think I cared way too much about it. Whereas now it's like, people breathe. It's okay to have
Mm-hmm.
deep sighs in the audio, or,
Yeah.
like there are some sounds that it's totally okay to incorporate, and people aren't going to care as much given the nature of our podcast. So,
Right.
all right. What's your second story?
The Martyrs Memorial or the Martyrs Monument.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. So, located at the Backwalk in Stirling, Scotland, Stirling's Old Town Cemetery has a rare gem within its confines. There's a large and beautifully made greenhouse that surrounds 3 stone figures. One of an angel, and the other 2 depict a pair of sisters that were murdered during the period in Scottish history lovingly referred to as the killing time.
Ah.
Mhm. So Margaret and Agnes Wilson were teenagers from Wigtonshire. Both sisters were followers of the Covenanters, an extreme sect of Presbyterians that strongly opposed Anglican reforms of King Charles II that he tried to enforce on his kingdom. So at the time, he was forcing people to become Anglican
Mm-hmm.
and to pledge their allegiance to the king as the leader of the church, not God.
Gotcha.
So he said he was the leader of the church and that God was not the leader of the church. He
Okay.
was doing it for God. And so he was forcing people to pledge allegiance to him in church.
Gotcha. King Charles, as
The
in King
second.
Charles II, that we covered last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what he was doing in his home country at the time.
Cool.
Yeah. The sisters, they refused to modify their beliefs for the king.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were arrested and tried for high treason. Margaret and Agnes, along with their elderly neighbor, Margaret McLaughlin, were found guilty and were set to die by drowning. There was they were essentially, by the sea. There was a
Mm-hmm.
spot where they would tie them up just in time for high tide to kind of take them over.
Gotcha.
So Margaret and Agnes's father was already converted to the Anglican faith, and
Okay.
he was able to buy Agnes's freedom because she was only 13 at the time, and so he was able to pay for mercy on
Mm-hmm.
her. But when the time came for the 2 Margarets to die, the 60-year-old died really quickly when she was tied up, forced to withstand the high tide at Solway Firth, which apparently is a pretty tumultuous area.
Okay.
The younger Margaret, the 18-year-old, was offered her freedom while tied up, but she refused. She was like, I'm never going to be an Anglican. It's not going to happen. And so they kept her there, and she died in 1685. So the sculptures themselves were erected in 1859 during the Victorian era because at the time the Victorians really wanted to beautify cemeteries and those
Mm-hmm.
spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like kind of during the height of that where they really wanted to make something beautiful. So originally the monuments were not encased in anything,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the angel, Agnes, and Margaret, and then there was like a little lamb laying at Agnes's feet to kind of
Sure.
showcase the innocence of everything. After some kind of weather, it was like transferred to a couple different places, and from weather they removed the lamb and then encased it. Today, it is said that the glass enclosure encasing the statues is actually has a paranormal benefit to it. It's
Mm.
keeping the angry sister spirits from exacting revenge.
Gotcha.
If you were to open the glass case, you would expel their wrath. Yeah.
Gotcha. Like Pandora's box.
Yep. Or Ghostbusters. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So don't do
Interesting.
that. But it's really beautiful. Like if you look up the Old Town Cemetery in Stirling, it's like the prettiest piece.
I'll include photos on social. So if you follow us on social, I'll include photos of all of these places.
Hey Lindsay, hey Maddie, hey ye old crime fans. This is Dustin from Sandman Stories Presents, and I'm a last minute man, as you can tell. This is May 15th that I'm sending this in, but I just want to say big congratulations to you two. 200 episodes is really impressive, and especially since you guys do your own research, you make longer episodes and all like that. 200 is really impressive, and I'm about to drink out of this mug that says, "It ain't a party until I swoop in." So, yeah. Thank y'all. Oh, the party don't start till I fly in. So, thank you for all the weird and wonderful crimes of the past. Thank you for the cracking the cramp word fun puzzle. And just thanks for being awesome people. All right. See you around.
We have another question from Alex. She sent us a bunch of great questions.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to know, when can I come back on the show?
When do you want?
Yeah, that's my answer. Whenever you want to come back, you're always
Yeah.
welcome.
Tomorrow. Just kidding. We have to research, but like soon.
Yeah. I'll chat with you, and you let us know a topic that you're interested in, and we will make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And my last story is that of John Cloyce and Abraham Rice. As you've already gathered, we'd like to cover unusual and unique graves and headstones on the show, and this last one is no exception. In Churchill Cemetery, located in Framingham, Massachusetts, sits a grave marker that is dedicated to two men in the 1700s that both died after being struck by lightning at the exact same time.
Well, that's insane.
It gets more insane. Not a lot of information is available about John Cloyce and Abraham Rice, but we do know that Abraham was a cornet, or a commissioned officer in the British colonial cavalry,
Mm-hmm.
and that means he was in charge of carrying the flag into battle.
Perfect conduit for lightning.
Yeah, but that's not what was in play this time.
Mm.
So on June 3rd, 1777, a number of men were congregating around a metal fence to observe local Framingham preacher, Peter Parker, not Spider-Man,
Right, I was like, and then he turned into a spider.
riding a horse that he was interested in purchasing. So he was kind of, riding it around
Test
inside the
driving
town.
it.
Yeah. At the time that Peter was riding, dark rain clouds began to gather and brought with them a light rain.
Mm.
Then, quite suddenly, a lightning bolt struck the horse and three men who had been present, like that had been
Oh my
around the
God.
horse.
Yeah.
So Abraham was killed immediately by the strike, and John was weak but alive until the horse that Peter had been riding fell on top of him.
Oh, crushing him.
Yeah. Of the three, Peter was the only one of them to survive.
That's horrific. And if the horse fell too, he probably at least shattered his leg or something.
I'm pretty sure the horse was dead.
Yeah. No, but like when the horse fell, if his leg was trapped.
Probably. The men were buried next to one another, and their headstone includes an epitaph as well as a short poem. So, on John Cloyce's side of the grave, it reads, quote, "In memory of Mr. John Cloyce, who being struck with lightning died June the 3rd, Anno Due 1777, in the 43 year of his age. O may you all, both far and near, who of this dispensation hear, now hearken to the call of heaven, and take the warning God has given. Surprising death to you soon may come in some unexpected way. I pray that all make it their care for sudden death now to prepare." End quote. Nice limerick.
Mm-hmm.
On Abraham Rice's side of the grave, it reads, quote, "In memory of Cornet Abraham Rice, who departed this life in a sudden and awful manner, and as we trust entered a better, June the 3rd, Anno Due 1777, in the 81st year of his age.
Dang.
My trembling heart with grief overflows, while I record the death of those who died by thunder sent from heaven in 1777. Let's all prepare for Judgment's Day, as we may be called out of time, and in a sudden and awful way, whilst in our youth and in our prime. End quote.
He wasn't really in his prime at 81, though.
No, I think he was ready to go.
Yeah.
It's unclear how well either of the men knew each other prior to their lives being intertwined by
Mhm.
such a freak accident, but I do find it a little bit ironic and interesting that out of all three of them, Peter Parker was the only one that came out of it unscathed.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the horse must have taken the entire hit, you know?
Brunt of it, yeah.
Mhm.
It's also from Alex.
Okay.
If you could sucker throat punch one serial killer in the throat, who would it be?
Ooh. Golden State Killer.
Mm.
Because he almost got away with it. And his, like, feigning ailments to try to get more sympathy while he is in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then his, like, American Ninja type shit that he does once he's alone in his cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd want to, like, beat the shit out of that guy. Like, straight up.
Yeah.
Hard as I can. Like, I would train for a year to punch that man in the throat. I would train with, like, the best in the business for punching things so I could punch him in the throat.
Your right arm is just completely swole.
It looks like it's transferred limb
Yeah.
because of how different it is. Yes, that is what I would want to do.
It looks like Bucky's vibranium arm.
Yes. That's actually what it is. That's the technology that they give me so I could punch him in the throat.
Wakanda forever. I'd probably do like Albert Fish.
Fair.
You don't fuck
Yep.
with kids.
No.
So, and if you don't know who he is, Google at your discretion.
Yeah. Google if you want to ruin your day.
Yeah.
Because you had a really nice existence not knowing about him up
Yeah.
to now. It was really great that you didn't know about him up till now.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry about it. All right. What's your final story?
My final story is the Cataphract Funerary Monument.
Ooh.
Mhm. Located in Bad Cannstatt or Stuttgart, Germany, this monument was found as part of an ancient burial site in 1930. So the grave actually depicts two brothers, Aurelius Saluda and Aurelius Regrethus, Roman soldiers that lived in the 3rd century.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So these men were likely mercenaries or cataphracts. So cataphracts were the most heavily armored type of Roman cavalry in the imperial and in the late Roman armies. So these dudes were like hardcore. These were frontline
Sure.
men, essentially, I think infantrymen, if we
Okay.
had something similar. Being kind of where the type of soldier they were probably, I would assume, similar to like a Navy SEAL or like some Army Ranger, that kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
So these men served in the Alla Firma Cataphractaria, a cavalry unit established in Mesopotamia that was deployed to the northern frontier of the Roman Empire from 222 to 235 to fight the Alemanni. Because of how fierce and successful the cataphracts were in terms of warfare, it is likely that Saluda and Regrethus fought many battles before their end in Germany. It's theorized that they likely died in the Battle of Harzorn in 235.
Wow.
Yeah. The monument, which can still be seen in the Landemuseum Württemberg, showcases how articulate and diverse the Roman army was, and that we can still appreciate the story of these two brothers thousands of years later.
So they have like the headstone?
Yeah, so the headstone is essentially just a portrait of them. It's like a horse and then the two men.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were like some details of them. So I just think it's kind of cool that for the Roman army, they were able to make these
Mm-hmm.
kind of in time while they were there in honor of them. So for them to take the time to make something that lasted this long
Yeah.
is huge. Like these guys must have been
Really important.
big deals. Yeah.
Wow. That's super cool.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, there's really not, I mean, there's really no story beyond that, beyond
Mhm.
the stone, because we don't have anything else.
That's still pretty cool, though.
Hmm.
Mama Linz, our favorite mother of Cultivate Podcast Network. Congratulations to you for such a wonderful accomplishment. 200 episodes. Woo! You did well. That crazy spreadsheet you got going on is actually live and in the flesh. Congratulations, my friend. We're so proud of you and hope all the good things happen your way, and wishing Ye Olde Crime continued success moving forward.
Absolutely, Linz. 200 episodes is amazing, especially when you're doing a real podcast that requires research and
and writing
and actual brain power. So shouts out to you for creating such an amazing show with such an amazing atmosphere. Here's to 200 more. I know you've got it in your spreadsheet, so let's go.
Hell yeah. Linz, thank you so much for, being mama to Cultivate. Truly, I have so much fun anytime I got to host or co-host or guest. Further evidence that we're not real podcasters. I have truly so much fun anytime I get to be on a podcast with you. And so happy that we played any part in your journey. And I just would like for you to know that you've played a huge part in our journey. So congrats on 200. Love to see it going. Happy to see it continue and grow. And fuck yes. Let's go, Linz.
Let's go, Linz.
We love you.
Last question from Alex is, what are you most looking forward to when it comes to the podcast? Such as if there are certain cases or guests, etc.
I don't know. Like for me, I don't know if there's any sort of case or guest that I'm most looking forward to. I just look forward to continuing and seeing where this is going, because we've been able to do some pretty cool things just on our own, like without a big network that does all this stuff for us, and without kind of extra assistance beyond kind of Carrie Ann and
Mm-hmm.
certain viewers that help us with our subscription payments so that we can keep things recorded in the cloud secure, and the software we need to edit the podcast and stuff.
Yeah.
I just look forward to seeing where this takes us, if we do end up doing like a live show at any point, or like what kind of crossovers we could potentially do with other podcasts too. I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you?
I think it would be interesting to see if there are more authors that would be interested in being on the show. My white whale is getting Aaron Mankey to be on the show. I'm too much of a chicken shit to ask and invite him, but I need to just put my big girl pants on and just shoot my shot and see.
Yeah.
The worst he can do is say no. But as you guys have probably heard by now, if you've been longtime listeners, and if you haven't, I have a massive spreadsheet that I use to keep track of all the things, and we have like 7 years worth of content on there.
Yep.
And I'm continuously adding more content to it as I find more stories. So, I mean, we could be doing this for a while if Maddie consents to keep doing it for a while. So we'll see what the future holds for Ye Olde Crime. But as of right now, I can't see it ending anytime soon. But I'm excited to see what is to come. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
What's something good you'd like to share?
We have a yard now.
Yay!
Yeah. So they officially came and they did the irrigation. Apparently the irrigation was part of like the house build.
Gotcha.
So that's nice. Then they put some sod down so we have actual grass. And so now I can actually like consistently clean my house and not have sand everywhere all the time.
Yep.
As I say this, I do need to desperately like clean said house. I've been nursing a migraine for the past like 3 days, And today's the first day in 3 days where I actually feel like I could do something for more than 10 minutes without dying. So, yeah, just enjoying the yard. And there's a couple places where I can potentially garden something. So,
Nice.
just kind of planning out the yard that way, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. Having grass again is something I didn't think I would take for granted, but yeah, having a nice yard, it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
This coming weekend is when Alex and Emily are coming to visit, so I am very, very excited to see them. We have been joking because the Airbnb that I booked for when they visit, when I booked it back in January, I didn't realize that I was going to have foot surgery, and there are lots of stairs. So it's going to
Oh
be
no.
it's going to be a fun time, and I will find out tomorrow when I get my stitches out of my foot if I can start using like a cane or something to walk, or if I still have to boot, scoot, and boogie for a while longer. I also need to ask if I can drive with my foot, because I haven't been cleared to drive yet. So
That
we'll see
might
what
be a
he's.
no.
We'll
That's a
see what he
lot of
says.
pressing. Yeah.
We'll see what he says. I'm hopeful he'll say it's okay if it's towards the end of the week. If I wait until Friday to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where I'm at with good things. So, all right, shall we?
Yes.
A great way to support the show if you want to help us out, but you can't do so financially, is to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Good Pods, CastBox, Podcast Addict, and or Audible. And we will be having a sale for the end of the month on our TeePublic shop. You can enjoy 35% off May 20th through the 27th. So get your Yield Crime merch that you've been thinking about getting and you haven't done it. And now that Memorial Day is coming around, you can be like, oh, look, there's a sale. I should buy some stuff right meow. So go do that. Got something you want to say? Shoot us an email over at yieldcrimepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your story ideas, see any gifts you send our way, or if you just want to say hello. We're pretty friendly. Speaking of friendly, if you'd like to have real-time conversations with us, consider joining our Discord over at the Cultivate Network. You can chat with us over at the Old Crimers Cubby, or catch up with any of the other great creators that are part of the Cultivate family of podcasts. Just click the link in our show notes or over on our link tree to get started today. Looking for more content? You can find us online at yieldcrimepodcast.com. If you'd like to see pictures from this week's episode, not to mention bonus content and funny memes, make sure to follow us on Twitter at YieldCrimePod and on Facebook and Instagram at YieldCrimePodcast. On TikTok? Of course you are. Follow us at YieldCrimePodcast. If you want a playlist of all our episodes on YouTube, click the link in our show notes or in our link tree and subscribe today for not only a list of our full catalog, but a separate list as well, just of our Can You Crack the Cramp Word segments. And on that note, as always, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Madison.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
as old as crime.